Hey there, YouTube! So, maybe something of a controversial topic, particularly as I'm not a man, so what the hell do I know, right? So this is really coming from the point of view of a woman who lives alongside and loves and works with men and wishing there was something differently we could do about the way we relate to one another. It's something I think is really important to talk about, but something I don't think is discussed nearly enough in real life and not nearly enough with the people who need to hear it most. I don't know about you, but I know men who I care about, who I believe are good people, but who are angry. They don't seem to know why, and they don't seem to have a healthy outlet for this anger. So, toxic masculinity. What do I mean by that? Lewis Howes, in his book, The Masks of Masculinity, talks about the different masks men have to wear to live up to, particularly in North American culture, but I would argue actually most patriarchal cultures, to live up to some unattainable ideal of what it means to be a man. If you have ever watched the documentary The Masculinity by Jennifer Siebel Newsom, Lewis Howes' book covers many of the same grounds. But he also offers really solid practical advice for identifying masks you might not have even realized were there, and how to remove the mask you live in so that you can feel more comfortable, truly being who you really are. Let's be clear. I'm not saying traits associated with masculinity, even traditional masculinity, are inherently toxic. They're not. But taken to their extreme, restrictive gender rules dehumanize not only women, but dehumanize men as well. I think people severely underestimate the kind of mental and emotional toxicity that builds up when people aren't really able to fully express themselves honestly, either to themselves or to the people they love. One of the things is that sadly, I don't think there's much in the way of a really visible, positive masculine role model in our popular culture. We have to cling to outdated ideas of what being a man means, because we have no idea what being a man in the 21st century should look like. And you can't be what you can't see, which is why I'm a huge believer in using media to tell as many stories as possible, to fully represent the full spectrum of the human experience, and to help us all understand one another better. And to see that we are really more alike than we are different. The really funny thing about reading this book for me was realizing just how many of our ideas about strength are really tied to traditionally masculine ideals. That even though I'm not a man and do not by any means have any of the same pressure to live up to these ideals, there were still quite a few masks in there that I know I've been guilty of wearing because it's been drilled into me since I was young that this is what strength looks like. Strength is not crying when you're in pain, not showing any emotions that make you vulnerable, and laughing off anything that could hit too close to home. When really, being brave enough to be vulnerable and being strong enough to face the consequences of it is actually a far more genuine display of strength than any of the previous things I've listed. I know I've pushed people away by pretending to be indifferent or by making a joke of things, and in that way damaged certain relationships in my life. When I think about the fact that men feel like they have to do this, but then also don't feel like they can be truly vulnerable with their own friends, I really worry for you guys. My friends now watching this are like, what are you talking about? You're not like that. But actually I am. Thankfully not in my friendships, but it's something I've only now realized I've been in the habit of doing in my romantic relationships. Because I've somehow fooled myself into thinking if I pretended it didn't matter, then I would have nothing to lose. Total idiot. But back to the topic. Why does it matter? Guys, it matters because it's literally killing you. The average man's lifespan in the UK is 5 years less than the average woman's. And it's not to do with genetics, it's literally to do with men not taking care of themselves. In 2015, 75% of all UK suicides were men. While femininity has its own toxic tendencies, eating disorders, body image issues, the list goes on. At least we're encouraged to talk to each other, to connect, and to seek help. Men are not. But like I said, don't just take my word for it. As I stated at the beginning of the video, the only perspective I can offer is this. As a woman who lives, works, and has relationships with men. I may be completely wrong and not know what the hell I'm talking about when it comes to masculine experience, and I get that. But I can point you out to some resources by dudes who are better placed to talk about it. And I want to talk about it because I care. We live on this planet together, and our lives would be so much poorer for not having each other in it. I can see how it affects you and your happiness. But I can also see how it affects us, the women in your lives. On the benign end of the scale, it's dysfunction and a lack of communication. On the more severe end, abuse. In all cases, it hurts. Not just us, but you too. I'm posting some links in the description below, both to some of the sources I cited, as well as a podcast interview with Greg Wotton, a UK Muay Thai champion, who talks about this very topic. So what are your thoughts? Do you feel you have to wear a mask in your daily life to conform to some kind of ideal? What masks do you wear? Post your thoughts in the comments below. See ya!